My brother-in-law called me a gold digger for years, so I finally exposed him at a family dinner. Now everything's falling apart. I, 30F, have been married to my husband, 32M, for 5 years. We both work hard and are pretty comfortable financially. My husband does earn more than I do, but we've always seen it as our money. We're a team and split responsibilities equally. The issue is my brother-in-law, 34M. For years, he's made these jokes about me being a gold digger because my husband earns more. It's always in front of people, and while I usually just laugh it off to avoid making things awkward, it really bothers me. I've always worked, I contribute to our household, and it's frustrating to have that constantly dismissed like I'm just living off my husband. Recently, my BIL and his wife asked us to help cover their part of a family vacation because they can't afford to go on their own. My husband and I talked about it, and while we could help, I really don't feel comfortable after all the times he's disrespected me. When I said no, my BIL tried to laugh it off, saying I was overreacting and that it was all just harmless jokes. I'm honestly over it. Now he's upset, and my in-laws are saying I'm making a big deal out of nothing, and that family helps family. My husband has my back, but I can't help second-guessing myself. Am I being too sensitive here? AIDA for refusing to help because of how he has been treating me? Update 1. All right, things have escalated in ways I didn't expect. After the whole situation where I said no to helping pay for the family vacation, my BIL didn't let it drop. Like, at all. My husband and I went to a family dinner shortly after that, and surprise, surprise, BL brought up the vacation again. Except this time, he tried to make it sound like a joke in front of everyone, saying something along the lines of, "Guess someone here thinks they're too good to help out family." And then he laughed, as if it was all in good fun. I'm not an idiot. I could feel the tension in the room as soon as he said it. The way everyone else at the table kind of looked around uncomfortably, except for my Emile, who gave me this tight-lipped smile. It was one of those moments where I could tell I wasn't going to get any backup from anyone other than my husband. I could see the wheels turning in everyone's heads, wondering if I was going to just laugh it off again or actually say something. For a split second, I almost did laugh it off. I've been doing that for years. I've smiled through gritted teeth at every gold digger comment, every passive-aggressive jab about how I must have it easy because my husband makes more money than me. It's always been easier to just go along with it and not make a scene. But this time? I don't know what it was, but something inside me just snapped. Maybe it was because it was a family dinner, and I was sitting there surrounded by people who supposedly care about me. Or maybe it was just the buildup of all the little comments over the years. Either way, I wasn't in the mood to let it slide anymore. So I didn't laugh. Instead, I looked him dead in the eye and said, "It's not about being too good. It's about being tired of being disrespected over and over again." The whole table went quiet. Like, you could have heard a pin drop. I wasn't shouting or anything, but I wasn't sugarcoating it either. My BIL's face went bright red, but before he could respond, I kept going. I've put up with your jokes for years, but they're not funny. You make these comments in front of everyone, making it seem like I don't contribute to our household, when that couldn't be further from the truth. I work hard, and I'm proud of what I do. So no, I'm not going to pay for your vacation when you can't even respect me enough to treat me like an equal in this family. At that point, my husband chimed in and backed me up, telling BIL that he needed to stop with the jokes because they weren't harmless. My BIL tried to stammer something about how he didn't mean it like that and we're all family here, but the damage was done. Everyone else at the table looked super uncomfortable, like they didn't know whose side to take. My Mill started in with her usual, "Well, you know how he is. He doesn't mean any harm." Which, honestly, is a classic response from her whenever her son does something out of line. But here's the kicker. My FIL, who's usually pretty quiet, actually spoke up for the first time in, like, ever. He said, "Maybe it's time we all stopped excusing things as jokes when they're clearly not funny to everyone." I think my jaw almost hit the floor. My BIL's face went from red to pale, and my Emile looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Fael's not the type to get involved in family drama, so when he said that, it was a pretty big deal. Anyway, after that, the dinner was super awkward, and we left shortly after. My husband and I talked about it on the way home, and while he was proud of me for standing up for myself, he's also worried that this is going to cause a bigger rift between him and his brother. He's always had a complicated relationship with Bill, but this feels like it might be the thing that really drives a wedge between them. He's not blaming me at all, just to be clear. He's been incredibly supportive throughout all of this, but I can tell he's torn about how this is going to affect their relationship moving forward. As for me, I feel a mix of emotions. On one hand, I'm proud of myself for finally speaking up. It felt like a long time coming, and I'm glad I didn't just laugh it off again. But on the other hand, I'm starting to feel the weight of what happened. My Bill has been pretty quiet since the dinner, but I know this isn't over. My Emil, in particular, is notorious for trying to smooth things over by sweeping them under the rug, so I fully expect her to try and downplay everything at the next family event. I can already hear her saying something like, "Let's just forget about all this and move on, we're family after all." But I'm not sure I can just move on without some kind of resolution. I've spent too many years biting my tongue and letting things slide for the sake of keeping the peace. And now that I've spoken up, I can't go back to pretending everything's fine. I need some kind of acknowledgement from BIL that he's in the wrong, but knowing him, that's probably not going to happen. He's the type who never really apologizes, at least not in any meaningful way. I can see him making some half-assed comment like, "Sorry if you got offended, but you know I was just kidding." So, yeah, I'm stuck in this weird limbo where I feel like I did the right thing, but I also know it's going to make things more complicated with my in-laws moving forward. My husband's been great, like I said, but even he's admitted that this is probably going to change the dynamic with his family. And I guess that's what's been weighing on me the most. I don't want to be the one who causes a permanent rift in the family, but at the same time, I can't keep letting myself be the punching bag for BIL's so-called jokes. Anyway, that's where things stand for now. We're supposed to have another family get-together in a couple of weeks, and I have no idea how that's going to go. Part of me is dreading it, but another part of me feels like I need to face it head-on and not let Bill think he can keep walking all over me. I guess we'll see what happens. Update 2. So I promised I'd update after the next family get-together, and wow, did things go off the rails. I honestly don't even know where to start, but I'll just dive right into it. This whole situation has definitely escalated in ways I didn't see coming, and at this point, I'm not sure where we go from here. The family event was at my MIL's house, a casual barbecue type of thing. I was already a little on edge going into it, knowing things were still tense from the last dinner. My husband and I talked a lot before going, and he made it clear that if things got uncomfortable, we could leave early. He also told me he was going to have a private conversation with his brother to try and clear the air before the whole family got involved again. The plan was to arrive a little earlier than everyone else so they could talk things out without making a scene. We got there, and it seemed like maybe, just maybe, things would be okay. Bael was acting weirdly friendly, and I thought for a second that maybe he was actually going to apologize or at least acknowledge what happened. Nope. Turns out he had something else up his sleeve. So, my husband pulled him aside pretty much as soon as we got there to have the chat they'd planned. I stayed outside with my MIL and FIL, who were being polite but clearly on edge. We could all feel the tension. About 15 minutes later, my husband came out looking absolutely furious. He told me we were leaving, and at that point, I didn't even ask questions. I just grabbed my stuff and followed him out. Once we were in the car, he told me what happened. Apparently, instead of owning up to anything or even trying to apologize, BIL doubled down. He told my husband that I overreacted at the last dinner and that I was being too sensitive. He even threw in some gross comment about how he was just teasing me like a brother would, and that I should be grateful he treats me like family. My husband, understandably, lost his cool at that point and told him that until he could treat me with basic respect, we weren't interested in being around him. That's when BIL apparently took things to a whole new level. He started going off about how I was turning my husband against his own family, that I was trying to isolate him, and that I'd always been after his money. He said the quiet part out loud, basically accusing me of being a gold digger right to my husband's face. And the worst part? He said that my husband was too blind to see it because he's pussy whipped. I can't even make this up. At that point, my husband was done. He told Bill that we were leaving and that we wouldn't be coming around anymore unless something changed. Bill just shrugged and said, "Do whatever you want," as if he didn't care at all. The drive home was silent for a while because I think we were both processing how bad this had gotten. I mean, Bill had always been passive-aggressive with his little jabs, but this felt like a full-blown attack. My husband was heartbroken, not just because of the way Bill spoke about me, but because of how this could affect his relationship with the rest of his family. I knew that was what hurt him the most. The idea that this might be the breaking point. After we got home, my husband decided to call his parents to explain what happened and let them know why we left. He didn't want them to hear some twisted version of events from BIL. Well, that conversation didn't go the way we'd hoped either. Mill was, predictably, upset, but not in the way we needed her to be. She kept saying things like, "I'm sure he didn't mean it," and "You know how he is, he just says things when he's upset." Basically, the same excuses she's been making for him for years. My husband was frustrated and tried to get her to see that this wasn't just some offhanded comment. Bael had crossed a serious line. But she just wasn't hearing it. She kept pushing the family is family narrative and saying we needed to forgive and forget. My FIL, on the other hand, was a bit more reasonable. He didn't say much during the call, but I could tell he was disappointed in Bill. Still, he's never been one to go against Mail when it comes to family issues, so I doubt he'll step in to fix anything. At the end of the call, Mail just said, "We'll talk about it at the next family gathering," which felt like her way of sweeping it under the rug yet again. Now, here's where things take a bit of a turn. A few days after all this went down, we got a message from Bill's wife. I hadn't mentioned her much because she's usually pretty quiet, but this time she reached out directly. She apologized for Beal's behavior and said she's been trying to get him to stop with the jokes for years. Apparently, she's been dealing with similar comments about her own job. She works part-time. And it's been a point of tension in their marriage for a while. She said she was embarrassed by the way he acted and that she's thinking about taking a break from the family events for a while, too. This was a bit of a shock to me because I didn't realize how deep the issues ran in their marriage. It gave me some perspective on why she's always stayed quiet during his outbursts. She's probably been walking on eggshells just like I have. I thanked her for reaching out, but I also made it clear that unless Belle made a real effort to change, we weren't interested in continuing to brush things under the rug. So, where does that leave us now? Honestly, I'm not sure. My husband and I have agreed to step back from family events for the time being. We both feel like we need some space to figure out what our boundaries are moving forward. I've realized that I can't keep putting myself in situations where I'm disrespected, even if it means causing tension within the family. My husband supports this decision, but I know it's hard for him. He's always been close with his parents, and it's painful for him to think about not being a part of family gatherings. As for Bill, I don't expect him to change anytime soon. He's shown who he really is, and I'm not interested in pretending everything's fine just to keep the peace. I'm done with the jokes, the passive-aggressive comments, and the disrespect. If he wants to be part of our lives, he's going to have to do a lot of work to earn back our trust. In the meantime, my husband and I are focusing on our own relationship and creating healthy boundaries with his family. It's not going to be easy, and I'm sure there will be more fallout from this. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm standing up for myself and setting the standard for how I deserve to be treated. Thanks to everyone who weighed in on my original post and updates. It's been a wild ride, but I appreciate all the support and advice. Hopefully, the next chapter of this story is a little less dramatic.